Years ago, I built a life many envied. I had a loving family, a thriving career as a software engineer, and a beautiful home that I cherished. My work on self-learning robots and high-security systems had not only earned me recognition, but also gave me a profound sense of purpose. However, beneath this seemingly perfect life, cracks began to form. Unbeknownst to me, forces were conspiring against me, and everything I had worked for would soon come crashing down. The beginning of my downfall was marked by a deep betrayal that shattered my world. My wife, Mia, had become involved with a corrupt sheriff named Ryan Crawford. Their affair led to my wrongful imprisonment for crimes I did not commit. The years I spent behind bars were filled with reflection on the life I had lost, the family that had abandoned me, and the grave injustice I had suffered. I vowed to survive and to reclaim everything that had been taken from me. Upon my release, I stood tense before the prison gates, noticing familiar faces in the distance. My ex-wife, my estranged daughter, her grandparents, and my brother. I asked the guard if I could leave through another exit, avoiding the group that no longer felt like family. The guard, surprised, asked why I didn't want to reunite with them. My response was cold and emotionless. Betrayal had severed those ties, and I wasn't even sure if the restraining order against me was still in effect. The guard, who had found me cooperative during my time in prison, escorted me through a maze of corridors to a small exit. Meanwhile, Mia, waiting with her family, noticed the time passing and asked the guard about my release. She was shocked to learn I had left through the back door, leaving her in tears as she realized the depth of my anger and the forgotten restraining order. I walked briskly to the bus station, my thoughts heavy with memories of the past 6 years. I once had a happy life with Mia and our daughter Zoe. At 38, I was a successful software engineer who had developed self-learning robots, re-engineered security systems, and created hidden communication networks with backup servers powered by solar panels. Our home, nestled at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac near a nature reserve, was a testament to my success. Physically, I was average, about 5'10" and 175 pounds, with dark brown hair and hazel eyes. I had a friendly face, usually adorned with a beard I kept trimmed, and I enjoyed cycling and walking. I was a bit shy, but could be quite charming and witty once I opened up. An avid reader, my ability to recall information had always been a key asset in my work. 6 years ago, Sheriff Ryan Crawford had approached me to update a traffic control program to reduce pollution in our town. Mia and I invited Crawford to dinner to discuss the project, and that's when things began to unravel. Crawford immediately took a liking to Mia. 6 months later, he acted on his desire. One day, I came home early to celebrate the completion of the project, only to find Crawford with Mia. Shocked and furious, I demanded an explanation. Crawford mocked me and left, leaving Mia to handle the situation. She coldly told me she would continue the affair and threatened to take everything from me, including Zoe, if I filed for divorce. Calm but furious, I refused to accept her terms and told her to leave. After consulting with my lawyer, Mark Bennett, to start the divorce process and protect my finances, I returned home to an empty house filled with an overwhelming sense of sadness and betrayal. The next morning, I met with Mark, who warned me that Crawford, known for his corruption, posed a serious threat. We quickly devised a plan to protect me financially. However, before Mark could leave, the police stormed in and arrested me on false charges of abuse filed by Mia and Zoe. Despite my protests, Mark advised me to stay silent and promised to handle the situation. He then raced to the police station, but the officers kept giving him the runaround, moving me between locations to make it difficult for Mark to find me. Realizing Crawford's involvement, Mark contacted a judge who intervened, ensuring that Mark would have immediate and unhindered access to me. The judge also demanded the names and badge numbers of the officers involved, putting them on notice. When Mark finally reached me, he started recording our conversation. "Have they interrogated you?" he asked. "They tried," I replied. "They threatened me with a baton if I didn't confess to hurting Mia and Zoe. I told them I wouldn't talk without my lawyer." "How did they treat you?" "They ignored me. No water, no bathroom break. Then suddenly they let me use the restroom and gave me a terrible cup of tea. I fear something worse is coming." Mark sighed. "I'm afraid so. This all seems too planned. Have you been moved?" "No, I've been here since my arrest." Mark decided. "I'm handing your case over to a colleague who specializes in this. I'll focus on your divorce. Is that okay?" I agreed, reminding him to use his power of attorney. 6 months later, in court, I stood no chance. Mia, Zoe, and 2 other women testified against me, painting me as a violent person. I couldn't provide an alibi because my hard drives had been sabotaged, and I chose not to reveal my backup system. The prosecutor painted me as a terrible husband and father, and although Mia and Zoe looked unhealthy and uncomfortable, I remained stoic as the jury found me guilty. The judge sentenced me to 6 years, though I expected to serve the full term due to Crawford's influence. During sentencing, I noticed Mia was pale, Zoe was crying, and Crawford was smirking like the Cheshire Cat. Back in my cell, a woman handed me an envelope with divorce papers and adoption documents for Zoe, who would be adopted by Crawford. Despite the pain, I signed them. Mia demanded the house, half of our savings, $3,000 monthly for 5 years, and a trust fund for Zoe's education. Mark reviewed the demands with me, and I instructed him to counteroffer. I wanted to keep the house, which I had owned before our marriage, and offered a lump sum of $500,000, $200,000 for support, and $300,000 from savings if they agreed to drop the other demands. Before leaving, Mark asked if Mia knew about my investment fund. I replied that I had mentioned it but never disclosed its size. I also reminded Mark to collect $100,000 from the city for the traffic light software upgrade, which would be his fee. Mark left feeling both sad and happy. Sad that I faced 6 more years in prison for something I didn't do, but happy because he could now afford the house he and his fiancée wanted, thanks to the city's payment he would pursue the next day. I arrived at my new prison cell after the warden's speech. Inside, I encountered the prison's biggest bully, known as Big J. He was focused on writing something. I politely cleared my throat, and Big J warned me, "If you tell anyone I can't write well, you'll regret it." Surprised, I asked, "No one ever taught you?" Big J, surprised by my question, explained that he had been working since he was a child. He was trying to write a letter to his grandmother for her 85th birthday. I offered to help, suggesting he dictate the letter and that I rewrite it after he finished. This broke the ice between us. I then asked if he wanted to learn to read and write, offering to teach him. Moved to tears, Big J agreed but made me promise not to tell anyone. I assured him that anyone trying deserves help, and we became friends. 2 weeks later, I unexpectedly received a visitor, my soon-to-be ex-wife Mia and our daughter Zoe. Annoyed, I refused to speak with them and asked the guard to prevent future visits. Mia called after me, but I ignored her. Later, Mark visited with an amended divorce proposal. Mia was willing to give up half the money if I would talk to her. I refused, saying I'd rather pay $250,000 than speak to her again. Mark then asked if there was anything else he could do, and I requested children's books for my cellmate. Surprised, Mark agreed to help. When the books arrived, the guards and prisoners were curious. Back in the cell, Big J was upset by their comments, but I reassured him, explaining that reading would help him avoid being tricked and that books could be enjoyable. Big J agreed to start reading, saying he'd try because I called him a friend. I realized Big J had lived a lonely life and wished I could change that for him. The next day, I returned to my cell bruised and in pain. Big J quickly helped me to my bunk, asking angrily what had happened. I explained, "My wife wants my house, and Sheriff Crawford sent men to beat me as a message to give it up." Big J growled, expressing his resolve to keep his own house, no matter what. I described one of my attackers, and the next day, 4 severely injured men were admitted to the prison ward, sending a clear message: I was off limits. Over the following month, Big J became an eager learner and avid reader. He even sent other inmates to me for help, earning me the nickname Doc. Soon, about 10 inmates were in my informal class. During a discussion about life after prison, many inmates shared concerns about finding jobs as ex-convicts. This inspired me to ask what kind of businesses they'd want to start. One inmate, a baker, expressed a desire to open a bakery, so I asked him to draft a plan as a math assignment. Big J, who wanted to work in security, was appointed by me as my future head of security. During Mark's monthly visit, I shared my idea of creating an investment fund to help ex-convicts start businesses. Mark agreed to handle the legal side while I managed the finances, and we quickly moved forward with the plan. Mark also brought news that Mia had signed the divorce papers, now only asking for half the savings with no alimony, leaving me surprised but relieved. 6 months later, I finalized the divorce and adjusted to prison life. The investment fund I started with Mark was thriving, helping prisoners find jobs or start businesses. I earned respect in prison, and any troublemakers quickly learned to avoid me. I even got my own room for teaching, as the guards recognized my calming influence on the inmates. One day, a welfare worker asked why I wasn't up for parole. I bluntly explained that the warden, a friend of Crawford's, wrote negative reports on me, and I feared that a Crawford-connected parole officer could easily send me back to prison. I preferred to serve my full sentence to be truly free. The worker, concerned, apologized for bothering me, but I assured her the prisoners were happy with my presence. I then headed to my self-defense class, a requirement by Big J that had transformed me into a stronger, more formidable person over my 4 years in prison. On my way back from the gym, a guard stopped me. "The warden wants to see you now." Worried, I thought, "What now? Am I in trouble?" Outwardly calm, I asked, "Do I need to clean up first?" "No, go as you are." 5 minutes later, I stood in the warden's office. The warden dismissed the guard and told me I should clean up, but I stayed silent. The warden then asked, "Do you know about computers?" "I was a computer programmer before, sir." "That's not an answer. Do you know anything about computers?" Sensing something suspicious, I replied, "If it's a software issue, I can help. Hardware is less likely." The warden instructed me to find the problem on his office computer and left. I quickly realized it was a trap. There was an internet icon, and I knew using it could add time to my sentence. I found a keylogger and poorly hidden problematic files. Eventually, I identified the issue. A worm from a downloaded video was corrupting files, but I kept this information to myself. When the warden returned, I requested privacy to explain. Once alone, I revealed the situation. The computer was filled with inappropriate images and videos, and the worm was causing damage. I warned that trying to blame me wouldn't work, as internet access was monitored. I offered to fix it, but only if granted internet privileges and legal protection. The warden, realizing his trap had failed, reluctantly agreed to my terms after confirming my lawyer's details. A week later, late at night, I worked on the warden's computer. I disabled the keylogger, compressed and hid the file, and installed the necessary software. While doing so, I accessed my home security system, shocked to find Crawford destroying my house and directing men to move something quickly. Inspired, I devised a plan. I set up a program to stream and download live footage from my home security system, then erased all traces of my actions. I replaced the keylogger with a less detectable version and left a small issue that would resurface in a year. As I finished my work, a supervisor burst in, asking impatiently, "Are you done?" "Yes, sir. All finished. If any issues arise, feel free to call." The supervisor replied sternly, "I will, and I won't be lenient. A guard will escort you back." Dismissed. I thanked him and left. Back in my cell, Big J noticed my satisfied expression and asked, "What are you up to?" I responded with a grin, "Revenge, Fabian. Now, who do we need to contact?" "A letter to Mark Bennett," Big J replied. "Do you have a pen and paper?" A week later, an FBI agent, confused by the letter Mark delivered, consulted her IT team. After connecting to my home security system, they were shocked by the state of my house. The letter detailed late-night activity and Crawford's involvement. Soon after, Crawford, shackled and escorted by guards, spotted me and threatened me. I laughed, enraging Crawford, who spewed threats. Big J noticed my reaction and glared at Crawford with hatred. Later, I met with an FBI agent who thanked me for helping them catch Crawford and hinted at a reward for reporting the sheriff's tax fraud. Pleased, I dodged questions about how I accessed my security system, still harboring thoughts of revenge against the warden. That night, Crawford awoke in his cell, tied down. A menacing voice warned him against threatening me, promising retaliation if anything happened to me or my family. Crawford, terrified, nodded in agreement. Shortly after, I was quietly escorted out of prison. I took a bus and eventually arrived at a parking garage where I was warmly greeted. I needed a vehicle, and the man, grateful for my help in the past, offered me a Nissan truck at a discount, refusing to accept full payment. I smiled and agreed, saying, "We'll figure something out." After a cup of tea, I waited for the paperwork to be processed, then familiarized myself with the truck before heading to visit my close friend. Later that afternoon, I settled into a chair at Mark's home, telling his wife, Emma, "It's been a long time since I've sat in a chair like this." Emma, fond of me and knowing my innocence, noticed how much I had changed. My face was worn, my eyes filled with sadness, and my beard obscured my expressions, yet I remained a gentleman. I brought Emma flowers remembering her wedding day, though I couldn't attend. She mentioned Mark would be home soon with my favorite Indonesian food. When Mark arrived, he joked about the truck in the driveway and we embraced. Mark welcomed me back, his voice thick with emotion. Emma reassured me, "Take your time, we understand." I shook off my gloom and said, "Sweet home." When Mark asked what I wanted to drink, I opted for sparkling water, saying I hadn't had alcohol in 6 years and planned to keep it that way. As Emma served dinner, she paused and declared, "Tonight we celebrate. Tomorrow you can face your battles again. Deal?" Both men agreed, and we enjoyed a relaxed evening. Mark told me they had prepared the guest room, but I hesitated, offering to stay at a hotel. Emma firmly insisted I stay with them, also offering to accompany me to my house the next day. day. I finally agreed, thanking them but admitting I was exhausted. Emma reminded me, "We're your friends. Remember, you helped pay for this house with the traffic light project. Now get some rest. We love you too." Despite the comfort, I struggled to sleep. The bed was too soft, and the quiet was unsettling compared to the prison noise. Eventually, I drifted into a restless sleep. The next day, Lisa Ward, my neighbor, watched as 2 cars pulled up at my house. A couple, clearly in love, and a thin, bearded man got out of a blue truck. She recognized the pain in my eyes as she observed them with binoculars left behind by the FBI. The group entered the house after I retrieved a crowbar from the truck. I walked through the ruins of my former home, now just another damaged building. The furniture was destroyed, the kitchen filthy, and the whole house was worse than prison. Electrical wires were cut, the ceiling torn down, and all valuables stolen. I wondered if I could ever call this place home again. I returned to my truck, grabbed my camping supplies, and began setting up inside the wrecked house, preparing for the night. When Lisa returned with her 10-year-old son Kevin, she saw Emma talking to me. At that moment, I finally lost my composure. After surveying the damage to my home, the reality of my situation overwhelmed me. The remnants of my past life were a shell, ruined by neglect and bad memories. I set up my bed and kitchen gear in the cleanest room I could find, but when Emma gently asked, "Are you sure staying here is a good idea? You seem very anxious. Please come back with us." It broke me. I collapsed into a chair and started sobbing, my body shaking with grief and frustration. Mark quickly embraced me, whispering, "It's okay, Isaac. We're here for you. Let it all out." It took a while for me to regain my composure. I eventually hugged my friends and thanked them, saying, "I wouldn't have made it without you. The way they trashed the house was just too much." Emma, still concerned, urged, "Are you sure you want to stay here? Please come with us." I reassured her with a sly smile, saying I needed to handle business and would be fine. I asked for their phone numbers, then went back inside as they left. As they reached their car, Lisa approached them. "I'm sorry to intrude, but I'm worried about my safety and my son's. Is your friend okay?" Emma assured her, "Your neighborhood just got better. Isaac's not dangerous. He's one of the gentlest people I know. You'll have a great neighbor." Back inside, I inspected the house and found that although the fuses were removed, the wires in the fuse box weren't cut, and the hidden solar-powered backup security system seemed intact. Relieved, I decided to add a computer or laptop to my shopping list. That afternoon, I bought a phone, tablet, laptop, flash drives, and a small generator. I returned home with supplies and dinner, then called Mark to share my new contact details and request a list of XCOM companies. The next morning, Lisa saw me sitting outside, working on my laptop and talking on the phone. Curious, she did some research and learned I had spent 6 years in prison for attacking my wife and daughter. Despite the seriousness of the charges, the couple she met had called me harmless. Lisa decided to remain cautious. Later, a van from XCOM Services arrived at my house with the slogan, "We've had a hard time learning to be honest, but now we do honest work at an honest price." Lisa saved the number from the van to check online later. After dropping Kevin off at school, she noticed 2 men from the van greeting me with smiles and handshakes. They all went inside the house with a thermos and a large bag. Aware that Lisa had been watching me the previous day, I thought, word will spread soon. Maybe best to hold off on introductions. I then gave instructions to the men. "Let's clean up. Start with the kitchen, bedroom, and office. If you're unsure about anything, just ask." Later that day, a truck delivered a 40-yard dumpster. Lisa saw a minivan with the XCOM Services logo pull up, and a woman gave directions before bringing a bouquet of flowers to Lisa's door. The woman handed over the flowers, saying, "Regards from Dr. Isaac. If we're too loud, just let us know." Lisa, surprised, waved back at me, sitting by my door, and felt unexpectedly uplifted. 2 weeks and 2 dumpsters later, the house was cleared and renovation plans were in place. Although only the bedroom and part of the kitchen were usable, I was making progress. Sitting outside under a shelter during a rainstorm, I heard a car engine stall and saw Lisa in distress. I grabbed my umbrella and approached her. "Good afternoon. I'm Isaac Carr, your neighbor," I introduced myself with a smile. Lisa, in a rush to pick up her son Kevin, replied, "My car won't start, and I'm late." I offered my truck or a ride, joking about being an ex-con. After some hesitation, Lisa agreed to let me drive. As we prepared to leave, Lisa mentioned she couldn't afford repairs, and I interrupted saying, "I offered help. No strings attached, just a friendly gesture." Feeling embarrassed, Lisa introduced herself properly and accepted my offer. I called my team to arrange for her car to be fixed while we picked up Kevin from school. Lisa, surprised by the quick response, realized my connection to the garage through my business helping former inmates restart their lives. At school, Kevin was excited to see the truck, and I introduced myself, offering Kevin the option to call me by my first name. We headed home, with me proving to be a helpful and supportive neighbor. Back at the house, Joey pulled me aside. "Doc, this car is a trap. The motor's wrecked and everything else is worse. What should we do?" I remembered Lisa's situation and asked, "Do you have something in stock? I've got a Nissan Rogue, but it's not a pretty color." Should I ask her? No. Just swap it out and send me the bill. I can't have a dead neighbor on my conscience. Joey approached Lisa and asked for her car keys and ID. She looked distraught and said, "I can't afford the repairs." Joey reassured her, "Don't worry, Doc's taking care of it. I'll bring a replacement tonight." Surprised, Lisa asked, "Isaac did that? Is he always like this?" "Yes. He's one of the kindest people I know. He never asks for anything in return. That's why we all help him. And for the record, I don't believe he did what they say he did to his ex." Meanwhile, I gathered the courage to review my backup hard drives. I watched footage of Mia and Sheriff Crawford plotting to frame me. The recordings showed how they faked injuries and manipulated the police. Devastated, I finally stopped when I heard Crawford ordering my silence, suggesting a deadly fate for me. I immediately contacted the FBI and handed over the evidence, requesting certified copies to prove my innocence. At the prosecutor's office, Mia was called in. Agent Daniels from the FBI informed her that they were reopening my case. Mia turned pale as the agent played footage of her and Crawford conspiring against me. Mia fainted and woke up to see the prosecutor being arrested. Agent Daniels coldly told him, "You won't get away with this. We have months of footage proving your conspiracy, and it's all legal because the homeowner gave it to us." A week later, Mia confessed, and Crawford was formally charged with crimes that would keep him in prison for life. Mia was sentenced for making false statements and perjury. I made it clear I wouldn't pursue further action against her to avoid leaving her destitute. Mia's family offered me a settlement of $2 million for each year I was jailed and damages to my home. The city of Riverton also faced a lawsuit for their role in my wrongful imprisonment, quickly agreeing to a settlement. Crawford, arrogant, didn't take the lawsuit seriously, and his lawyer did minimal work. Eventually, the court ruled in my favor, stripping Crawford of his fortune. Mia, terrified by my lawsuit, found herself in jail without a job, facing foreclosure, and owing $1.1 million. Imprisoned, she was isolated, ignored by inmates, and left alone in her cell. Mia learned about the investment program I started with Mark, realizing that without her actions, it wouldn't have existed. Crawford, furious upon learning he was sued for $11 million plus $1 million in repairs, threatened me and my family. Soon after, he was visited by less than friendly individuals, resulting in him screaming in pain. A year after my release, I had fully renovated my home and discreetly bought every house in my cul-de-sac. One stormy night, I found Lisa and Kevin soaked and shivering in my doorway. Angry but concerned, I gave them raincoats and brought them inside. Lisa apologized for panicking, explaining the fuse box blew. I calmed her down, promising to have it fixed the next day and insisting they stay the night. I prepared a room for them, found t-shirts, and sent them to shower as I prepared to sleep in my study. Lisa thanked me, asking, "Why did your ex leave you?" I explained how I had hidden security systems that eventually exposed Crawford and proved my innocence. I then sent Lisa to bed, knowing tomorrow would be a busy day. The next morning, a contractor inspected Lisa's house. Big J accompanied him, and I introduced him to Lisa. Her hand disappeared in his large one during the handshake, and Kevin joined in too. Big J jokingly warned Kevin, "Careful, you're stronger than you think," breaking the ice. They all went for coffee, where Big J whispered to Lisa, "Don't drink Isaac's coffee without water." Lisa giggled, agreeing that it was strong. The contractor returned with bad news. Lisa's house was nearly uninhabitable due to neglect. Lisa began to cry, but I took charge. I instructed Big J to install a lock on my bedroom door and give Lisa the keys. When Lisa mentioned her ex was the landlord and wouldn't sell the house, I told Big J to handle it and have the property forensically examined before making an offer. When I asked about her work, Lisa explained she was stuck in a low-paying job, unable to find better opportunities due to her ex. Realizing I needed a secretary, I offered her a job managing my workload. I even suggested setting up a space for Kevin so she could work from my house or hers once it was renovated. Touched by the offer, Lisa hesitated, worried about references and caring for her son. I reassured her, offering to help with Kevin's homework and emphasizing that working together would benefit both of us. Moved by my kindness, Lisa accepted the job and embraced me. Kevin soon found an old robot I had built as a hobby. Excited, I helped him set it up, and soon the robot was rolling around the driveway, accompanied by Kevin's laughter. Later, Lisa quit her old job, where they tried to entice her with a raise. Unfazed, I offered her $3,000 a month, free rent, and my gratitude. Lisa, happily accepted. 2 weeks later, Lisa was impressed by how quickly the ex-con crew renovated her house, which was now ready, thanks to Big J's negotiations. Although she was moving her things back in, she felt a growing attachment to me. Their daily routine included an hour of cardio and fitness, a habit I picked up in prison. Initially, Lisa struggled with the workouts, but she soon noticed improvements in her fitness and found the work both challenging and rewarding. A few nights later, Kevin excitedly mentioned he had a new math teacher, but Lisa, preoccupied with thoughts of me and how to express her feelings, only half listened. She noticed an unfamiliar car in her driveway, but didn't think much of it. Later, she realized the car was still there, with the driver inside, so she approached and knocked on the window. Inside the car was Samantha, Sam Carr, who had recently started teaching math at Kevin's school. When her mother went to prison for perjury, Sam had to quit studying artificial intelligence and get a job. Hearing Kevin talk about building a robot with me sparked jealousy in her. She tracked down Kevin's address, and seeing me after 6 years was overcome with emotion. Lost in her thoughts, Sam didn't notice Lisa until she knocked on the window. Lisa, concerned, invited her inside, where she met Kevin, who recognized her as Miss Sam. Lisa introduced herself, and Sam revealed that she was my daughter, though she hadn't seen me in years. Lisa, realizing the connection, invited her to stay the night, insisting she wasn't in a state to drive. Sam shared more of her story with Lisa, explaining that she had refused to be adopted by Crawford and had cut ties with her mother after learning what they did to her father. Lisa, surprised by this information, suggested they find a way to reconnect Sam with me. She mentioned that I still kept a picture of Sam in my desk, which touched Sam deeply. Sam then observed Lisa's feelings for me and gently asked if she loved me. Lisa admitted her feelings but expressed doubts about her chances with me. Sam reassured her, sharing insights from her mother. I was shy and distant when I cared about someone, not wanting to impose. Sam encouraged Lisa, saying my small gestures, flowers, thoughtful gifts, were signs of my affection. Sam concluded by asking Lisa to take care of me, expressing her deep desire for my happiness, even though she couldn't fulfill my demand to give back the 6 years I lost. Sam's tears were on the verge of spilling over, and Lisa was having a rough night. After an emotional evening, a stranger had stayed in her home and explained how I was wired. Now that she understood me a bit more, she tried to figure out how to break through my defenses. She considered different plans but quickly discarded them, eventually deciding to dress more provocatively. Reuniting father and daughter would have to wait. When Lisa joined me in my small gym, I was pleasantly surprised. She was wearing her usual sweatpants, but her loose t-shirt had been replaced by a tight top, showing off her figure. Noticing her progress, I saw she had started to tone up and lose weight. Halfway through our workout, Lisa decided to test Sam's advice. She asked, "Can I have the day off? I need to relax and buy some new clothes." Enthusiastic, I offered to join her, which was exactly what Lisa wanted to hear. She pretended to hesitate, but quickly agreed, saying she'd appreciate the company and my help choosing clothes. Concerned, I gave her an out, but she reassured me, calling me both a friend and her boss. They agreed not to talk about work, and I jokingly called her boss. Later, after dropping Kevin off at school, we headed to the mall. We spent the morning shopping, with Lisa encouraging me to update my wardrobe to shed my convict image. She enjoyed the day, gaining confidence as she updated her own look. She admired a dress but put it back due to cost, unaware that I had already arranged for it to be purchased. After lunch, they playfully argued over the bill, and I won. Lisa didn't notice the extra bag containing the dress and her favorite perfume until she unpacked it home, realizing she truly had a chance with me. The next day, she wore another flattering top to the gym. By the third day, frustrated and desperate, she ended her workout in tears. I immediately noticed and asked what was wrong. Lisa decided to be direct, saying, "I have a problem with a man. I love him, but he's not responding to my advances." Visibly affected, I stammered some advice, telling her to be direct and that any man would be foolish to ignore her. After a pause, Lisa bluntly asked, "Isaac, are you going to make love to me here or in your bed?" Shocked, I stammered, "You mean when?" When Lisa confirmed, I realized I felt the same. I confessed my love, admitting I'd been holding back because I was her employer. Lisa reminded me I was sometimes too decent for my own good, and they quickly decided to head to the bedroom. Later, lying together after a nap, Lisa reminded me it was time to pick up Kevin. I showered and left to get Kevin from school, where Lisa met Sam, who smirked and said, "Looks like you got your man." Lisa laughed and thanked her, saying, "You were so right." 6 weeks later, Lisa's opportunity arrived. During their morning workout, I noticed Lisa seemed unusually tired. She declined coffee and opted for tea, and when someone passed by with a cheddar sandwich, she rushed to the bathroom. I realized something was off. After Lisa returned, I told her I'd take the day off, using a client visit as an excuse. As soon as Lisa went inside, I drove to a mall with a good jeweler. The next morning, feeling slightly better, Lisa skipped her workout, blaming a virus. When she arrived at her office, she found 2 small numbered boxes on her desk. In the first, she discovered an antique pocket watch with a note. Time flies by, and life is too short to waste. The employer wonders if his PA will let him propose. Lisa's heart warmed. In the second box, she found 3 pregnancy tests, confirming I had noticed before she did. Overwhelmed with emotions, she stood in silence until a quiet cough made her turn. I was in the doorway and she blushed deeply. She replied modestly, "Yes, my employer is allowed to propose." I took her hand, led her outside, and asked her loudly, "Lisa Ward, will you marry me?" "Yes, you idiot," she replied playfully, realizing they had an audience. As I slipped the engagement ring on her finger, cheers erupted around them. Kevin brought champagne, and I announced, "I bet on yes." After the celebration, Lisa and I returned to my house, exhausted from the day's emotions. They sat quietly, enjoying each other's company. I then asked, "Where do you want to live? Here in this old house, or should we build a new one? And what about your old house?" Lisa replied, "I love this house, and if I can help with the renovations, I'd like to stay here. As for my old house, it's yours now. You can decide what to do with it, but if you want to sell it, I'll buy it from you." I smiled, and Lisa thought about the possibilities. She calmly said, "I'll think about it. Maybe I know someone." The next day, after picking up Kevin, Lisa and I discussed house renovations. I wanted to add a pool and a balcony off the bedroom and build a cabin for Kevin connected to the main house. Later, Lisa brought up a candidate for her old house. Nervous, she asked me to listen carefully before responding. She explained that Kevin's new math teacher, Samantha Carr, needed a place to live since her current home was in foreclosure. I was stunned, realizing Samantha was my daughter, not Crawford's. Almost exploding, I managed to mutter, "What?" Lisa gently reminded me, "You promised to listen." She continued, "Sam didn't know what they were doing to you. She thought the makeup artist was just working on her portfolio. Crawford falsified her testimony. Whenever she tried to see you or get you released, Crawford blocked her. Even the judge was on Crawford's payroll before you were sentenced. Even your ex-wife thought it was just to pressure you into submission." As Lisa spoke, my face showed a range of emotion: red, purple, white, and finally ashen. Tears streamed down my cheeks and I whispered, "Poor thing, what do we do now?" My mind was overwhelmed, thinking of the nearly 7 years lost. Lisa kissed me gently, bringing me back from my despair. I snapped out of it, vowing, "Crawford will pay for this, and it's going to be a big price. Please don't do anything foolish. I don't want you back in jail, especially since I'm pregnant." All 3 tests were positive, Lisa added with a smile. "We need to think about Sam now." I agreed to leave Sam's situation to Lisa. I arranged for the contractor to drive me home while Lisa went to pick up Kevin and Sam at the school. Lisa invited Sam into the car, telling her she had found her a house. Sam, puzzled, agreed to go see it, and they drove to Lisa's home. When they arrived, Lisa revealed that Sam's new house was actually hers, as she was moving in with me. Sam was shocked, but relieved to find out she could afford it and wouldn't have to do anything inappropriate for it. Lisa then revealed that I was her father and that we were getting married because a new sibling was on the way. Sam experienced a flood of emotions: happiness, surprise, and nerves about seeing me again after nearly 7 years. Lisa led Sam to my house, where Kevin ran ahead and loudly knocked on the door. I opened it, nervous but happy, and greeted both women warmly. When I saw Sam, I whispered, "Sam, you've grown into such a beautiful woman. Can I give you a hug?" Sam rushed into my arms, crying out, "Daddy!" They embraced for a long time until Lisa called them inside. Once inside, Sam carefully studied me. I had aged more than she expected. My face was lined with wrinkles, and I appeared leaner and more hardened than before. Lisa gently interrupted, suggesting they continue their reunion in private while she prepared dinner. Sam, overjoyed, hugged Lisa and called her Mom, expressing her gratitude. Sam and I settled in the living room, where I offered her a soft drink, explaining that I had given up alcohol after my time in prison. Sam nodded, and still processing everything, asked, "Are you really offering me Lisa's house? I can think of a few complications." I chuckled softly and said, "I've thought about that. The only issue might be the restraining order your mother has against me. I understand she'll need a place to stay after she gets out of jail, and your house has plenty of room. But listen carefully, Sam. This is your home because you're Lisa's tenant. and I won't interfere with your guests. However, your mother must keep her distance from me. No coming near my garden or front door. I'll ignore her if I see her on the street, but she's not welcome near me. Can you live with that?" Sam nodded. "Yes, Dad, it's just temporary until she's back on her feet. Honestly, I don't want her living with me long-term either." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Sam continued, "I have a serious boyfriend and I need my space. Plus, we haven't gotten along since she got involved with that idiot. I hope she finds a job and her own place soon." I considered that and replied, "Is she still working as an accountant? Maybe I can help her find a job. She should have some money left. I paid nearly $500,000 to settle things with her." Sam shook her head. "No, Dad. That guy drained her dry, and now he's broke after paying all the compensation. But yes, she's still a CPA and has also picked up some paralegal work. I'll see if I can help her find something. But let's keep that between us." I asked, "Do you visit her in prison?" Sam nodded, just as Lisa announced that dinner was ready. A few weeks later, Sam and I were chatting in the living room when I asked, "When was the last time you visited your mother?" "Right before I moved here," Sam replied. "Remember, she's still your mother. Keep in touch with her. You might regret it if you don't." Before Sam could respond, there was a loud knock. "That's Fabian," I said. "He's the only one who knocks like that," and went to the door. Fabian introduced his son Julian, proudly mentioning that despite his father being in prison, Julian had become a teacher. Julian, nervous, asked to speak with me in private. Once alone, Julian confessed, "Sir, I want to ask Samantha to marry me. We've been together for a long time and I'm asking for your blessing." I smiled and called out, "Samantha Carr, I know you're listening. Come in here." Sam entered, smiling. I asked, "Should I give this nice young man my blessing?" "Yes, please, Papa," she replied. I shook Julian's hand, saying, "You have my blessing, son. Take good care of my daughter. Now let's celebrate." As they headed to the living room, Sam pulled me aside and whispered, "Dad, you're going to be a grandfather in about 7 months. The doctor confirmed it this morning." I beamed with joy. "Sam, you've made me so happy. How about a double wedding with Lisa and me?" Sam agreed, and they joined the others in the living room. Julian introduced Sam as his future wife to Fabian, who was stunned but gave his blessing. Sam then revealed to Julian, "You're going to be a dad. We decided to start a family while we're still young." 2 weeks later, during a visit, Mia complimented Sam on how well she looked. Sam shared that she had a place to live, was getting married, and life was treating her well. Mia was surprised to learn that Sam's new home was next to mine and that they had reunited. She timidly asked when the wedding was. "We're waiting for you to get out of jail," Sam replied. "Since you're still my mother, you're invited." Hopeful, Mia asked, "Can I stay with you when I'm released? I have nowhere to go, and I need a job too." Sam took a deep breath, not wanting Mia to know that I had already arranged a job for her. She simply said, "You can stay with me until the baby comes, but then I'll need the space for work. Have you tried XCOM services? They help former convicts find jobs." Mia, surprised, replied, "You're having a baby? Why didn't you tell me? It feels like you're still mad at me. Can't you forgive me?" Caught off guard by her mother's obliviousness, Sam let her frustration show. "Mom, the only reason I keep in touch is because Dad tells me I only have one mom. Otherwise, you wouldn't have heard from me since you were last in jail. You cost me over 6 years with Dad because you were too selfish and cowardly to do the right thing. And how could you fall for that idiot when you had my dad?" Mia was stunned by Sam's anger. It hit her hard, realizing she had a lot of issues to resolve with her daughter. The fact that I had moved on with a fiancé shocked her too. She hadn't expected me to rebuild my life so quickly, especially in the house where I'd faced so much misery. As Sam left, Mia was left alone with her thoughts, haunted by her daughter's harsh words. Mia had left Crawford soon after realizing she'd been manipulated, and the money was gone. She had tried to be a good mother to Sam, thinking her daughter's hostility was just teenage rebellion. Now, she understood how much she had hurt Sam, who was clearly closer to me than she had realized. Mia was also upset that Sam hadn't told her about the pregnancy, further deepening the distance between them. She knew there was a long road ahead before she could rebuild their relationship. When Mia moved into Sam's house, it was clear the welcome was lukewarm. Sam didn't hug her but introduced her to Julian, her fiancé, and said, "You can use everything here while you look for work. There's a laptop in your room. Have you contacted XCOM yet?" Mia looked down and admitted, "I tried, but they didn't seem interested. It felt like I was blacklisted." Julian responded, "I'll ask Dad about it. He has a say in XCOM's hiring and made sure you'd be treated respectfully. Otherwise, it would have been tough for you. Isaac is well respected." Mia, confused, asked, "What does your father have to do with my ex-husband?" Sam, cutting her off sharply, said, "Don't even think about it, Mom. Dad wants nothing to do with you, understand?" Julian then explained the connection between me and Fabian, which made things clearer for Mia. She realized how intertwined our lives had become. Later, Mia was startled by a visitor. Fabian, a massive man, introduced himself. He explained that her past association with Crawford made her a risk, but I had spoken up on her behalf. Fabian offered her a job as an accountant with his company, with the condition that she never contact me. Mia, feeling cornered, agreed. As Fabian left, Mia was left reeling. She was shocked by how completely I had shut her out, even though I still ensured her basic needs were met. She watched through binoculars as Fabian greeted me at my house, feeling a mix of jealousy and regret. When she later saw me with a pregnant woman, she was overwhelmed with envy, realizing this should have been her life. As Sam's wedding approached, Mia tried to gather as much information about me as possible, using the binoculars to watch me from afar. She was hurt when she learned Lisa and I were also getting married. The news crushed her hopes of ever reuniting with me. At the wedding, Mia felt out of place. During the reception, she noticed Julian asking me for permission to dance with her. As they danced, Mia felt a brief moment of happiness, but when I later asked her to dance, she was struck by the sadness in my eyes. She realized how much she had hurt me and felt overwhelmed with guilt. Mia suddenly understood the depth of the pain she had caused and couldn't comprehend how she had let things get this far. In an instant, all of Mia's self-esteem crumbled, and she physically shuddered at the realization of what she had done to me. She noticed me extending my hand, patiently waiting as her thoughts overwhelmed her. In a timid voice, she asked, "Are you asking me?" I repeated, "Will you honor me, Mia, with this dance?" Without another word, Mia clung to me and began to sob. As the dance continued, Mia regained her composure and, with all the courage she could muster, whispered through tears, "Isaac, I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I know you must hate me." I responded, "I can't give you back those years, Mia. I'm glad you feel remorse, but we're dancing because the two women I love most asked me to show you compassion. You felt a fraction of the pain I endured. Crawford's betrayal scarred me deeply. I hated you until Lisa came into my life. Her love healed me, and any feelings for you faded. We're strangers now, connected only by our past. For our daughter and soon-to-be grandchild, I won't avoid you, but it will be a long time before I can consider you a friend. Remember, two people are watching you closely, ready to act if you cross any lines." Mia felt the sting of my words, but also longed for the man she had once loved. I was different now, hardened and stronger. She realized the steep price she had paid. Instead of being by her daughter's side on her wedding day, she was merely tolerated as a guest. Lisa had taken her place as the mother figure, and Mia could see how close they had become. Julian had asked her to dance, but only with my permission, and it was clear her daughter and my fiancé had to convince me to allow it. A deep depression settled over Mia like a cold shadow as she mourned all she had lost. I saw her transformation from a proud woman to a broken one and knew I was done with her. She would have to fight for her own redemption just as I had. I whispered in her ear, "There are people who will support and help you. I've given you a start. The rest is up to you." The dance ended, and Sam approached her. "I can see this has been overwhelming for you. Do you want to stay the night? I don't think you should drive. I don't want to lose my mom. Or should I arrange for someone to drive you home?" Mia accepted the ride, and Mark and Emma drove her to her new home. Before they arrived, Emma turned in her seat and said, "You're alone and without friends. You made mistakes, and you'll pay for them for a long time. Tonight, we saw you finally understand what you did to Isaac instead of just enduring the consequences. Isaac's goal was to help you realize your wrongs. He completely destroyed Crawford, who's in for a rough time in prison, but Isaac isn't willing to deprive his daughter of a stable mother. That's why, on his behalf, we're offering you counseling. It will help you understand why you went down the wrong path and how to deal with the aftermath. Just think about it. If you agree, tell Fabian." When Mia got home, she entered the dark house, removed her coat, and collapsed on the sofa. In the darkness, she finally let go, sobbing as the weight of her emotions hit her. Remorse and a deep sense of loss overwhelmed her, and she knew it was all her fault. I had been hurt, but had found happiness again. Now it was up to her to try to do the same.